Hi, so I'm joined by Suzanne Noble, the founder of Silver Sharers. Suzanne, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Nice to see you again, Will.
Nice to see you too. How's it all going now you finished the BGV program?
It's still very busy, although nowhere near as much time on Zoom, thankfully.
That can only be a relief. So, would it be possible if you could introduce yourself and just say a little bit about your journey towards creating Silver Sharers?
I'm Suzanne Noble, and I'm the founder of Silver Sharers, and we help homeowners over 50 find compatible lodgers of any age. And my journey started when someone my own age moved in to my flat. Like many people my age, I was hosting rooms on Airbnb. My kids had moved out and I had a couple of spare rooms, and I thought, well, there's some potential income there. So I started at first, I had one room. Then when my other son moved out, I had two. And then, like many Airbnb people, I've since discovered, I got a bit fed up with all of that, changing sheets and doing the laundry and feeling like a housekeeper. And I met someone who was looking for a room, and without giving it much thought, actually, he moved in about 6 weeks after we met. Didn't do much interviewing, didn't really know too much about him, but very quickly discovered that when you're living with somebody your own age, it can actually be really fun if you get it right. And that's where the idea came from. I had a not for profit, which I still run as a side business, called Advantages of Age, and have a very big Facebook group. So I just kind of put the word out there because I thought, am I the only one doing this? And turned out there were a lot of people in my group that were in a similar situation, living with friends, living with lodgers. And so I found an anthropologist stroke market researcher, and we started speaking to lots of people. This was way, way before we started Silver Showers or BGV or anything, and really started digging into what makes people do this, what circumstances, how they find people, what the challenges are around that. And out of that, eventually materialized Silver Sharers. Yeah.
Awesome, great. So, a lot of people, as you say, are taking up lodging and yeah, sharing homes. How then does Silver Sharers connect the dots? How does it work from a user perspective?
So at the moment, it's pretty basic and pretty hand cranked. I met Steve, my co-founder, through a mutual acquaintance, and he's the head of product. So we decided to go very much down the lean startup methodology, which means that we've spent a very small amount of money and really trying to understand the journey from the point where people sign up to our newsletter. They then, depending on what circumstance they're in, whether they're looking for a room or whether they have a room, they fill in a form on our website. That then gets added, the home gets added to our weekly newsletter, and the newsletter gets distributed to hundreds of our subscribers, who then can view the rooms and decide whether they want to go and see any of them in person. And at that point, the inquiry comes back to me, and I then look at the profile for the lodger and the homeowner and decide whether or not it seems to be a good match. And if so, I put them in touch with each other, and they just see how they get on. In future, we're looking at making that much more automated. Uh, Obviously, it takes a huge amount of time to, to speak to everybody, but the advantage of doing that is that we really get to understand our customers. And at the beginning of any startup journey, understanding your customers and their pain point is really important. And I think I understand every one of their pain points.
So, on the question then about pain points, what what are the main kind of barriers that are stopping people, especially in the 50 plus demographic, from finding co-living when it is, as you say, such a fruitful opportunity?
I think there's a number of factors. There's a fear factor for sure around letting someone into your home who you don't know. And that's part of our whole business, is around trying to mitigate that fear and trying to embed trust in everything that we do. So I think that's a really big one. I think also, you know, especially since we're in the UK, and lots of people do value their privacy, and obviously this will impact to a certain extent on that, depending on the layout of your home. And then there's just the fact that, a bit like when Airbnb started and people were like, will people really go and stay in people's homes that they don't know? I think there's also a bit of education and behavioral change that needs to take place, where people go, actually, it's not just about the money. I can make a new friend. I can have somebody to hang out with. This could be really beneficial, not just from a financial point of view, but just generally from a well-being point of view. So there's a, you know, there's a bit of education that needs to go on around it, but it is slowly happening. We're seeing more people coming on the platform all the time. So, and you know, it's around people like you giving us publicity. So
And from the people that you're getting on the platform, like how many people roughly are you reaching, and what are their experiences of it? Like, what are you finding when it comes to, you know, overcoming these barriers and getting people?
So we're seeing that the average age of the homeowner, at the moment, we're just in London, so it's, you know, it's not like we're global. We're seeing the average age of the homeowner is around 60, and the average age of the renter is around 50. But we're getting younger renters as well. There's clearly some younger people who would quite like to live with an older person. Maybe they've just moved to the UK and they're looking for a bit of a parent substitute. And we find that the age thing is interesting because from the homeowner point of view, they're not that bothered about the age. Like, they're not desperate to live with their own age. They just want to find somebody that they get along with. So we've got about 800 subscribers now to our newsletter, but it's growing all the time. So yeah, that's where we are, making matches. And
Amazing. So you've already alluded to the kind of non-financial benefits from silver sharers, or just um, looking a bit more to the long term. Like, what kind of vision do you have for, say, the future of just, obviously there's a housing crisis, people are lonelier than ever. Just how, you know, how do you see silver sharers tying a lot of these threads together and really change, helping drive some meaningful, necessary impact?
you know, we need the government to acknowledge that this is a possibility, right? They're spending a lot of time talking at the moment about building and social housing and everything. It hasn't happened in my lifetime. So it's unlikely that there's going to be a huge, you know, there's going to be such a scale of building, especially, you know, post-pandemic, where suddenly, you know, there's going to be loads of affordable homes. So clearly there's got to be some acknowledgement by the government and by local authorities that this is one potential option, and they have to get behind us in that way to make that happen, because otherwise we're just yet another private tech for good business that's competing against all the other businesses out there. And it, you know, it's challenging. So at the moment, you know, we're speaking to potential big partners, talking to some city councils, making some inroads into government, thinking about all those areas where potentially we could start piloting some solutions. It's happening in other countries in the world. It just hasn't really happened here yet.
Brilliant. And then bring it back. What are your immediate goals, tasks, asks, and things that you have on the horizon?
So we are currently rebuilding our platform, and we're working through that challenge. So thanks to the BGV fund. So that's been really helpful and great for us. And we are in another, not too seriously, but we are fundraising, speaking to a few VCs that are interested in us, and some in the US as well. So that's quite exciting. And we are, yeah, we're talking to potential partners. We're basically working, we've got some volunteers looking at some different kinds of digital advertising and some messaging. So yeah, usual startup, juggling many balls in the air. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been great to learn more about Silver Sharers and your vision for the future of, I don't want to say housing because it's not the houses, but it's how we live in the houses. There's probably a better word for that. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Will.
Take care.
Bye.